What was Pangaea?
Pangaea, which existed about 250 million years ago, was one huge continent, including the land of all 7 continents. It was located near present-day Antarctica and has slowly drifted and split to form the continents as we know them today. The continents and their tectonic plates continue to move and will one day be in a much different arrangement than they are today.
How many people speak Arabic in the world?
Approximately 200 million people are native speakers of Arabic, and an additional 200 million are non-native speakers.
What waterfall has the largest flow of water?
Niagara Falls, on the border of Canada and the United States between Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, has 212,000 cubic feet, 6,000 cubic meters, of water flowing over its 173 and 182-foot high, 52.7–55.5 meter high, set of falls. There are 2 adjacent waterfalls.
How much water is in snow?
When about 10 inches, 25 centimeters, of snow melts, it turns into about 1 inch of water. Snow has pockets of air between snowflakes when they are on the ground. So it takes 10 times the snow to make an equivalent amount of water.
Who was the first European to see the Pacific Ocean from its eastern shore?
In 1513, Vasco de Balboa crossed the Isthmus of Panama and became the first European to see the Pacific Ocean from its eastern side. Wearing full armor, he walked straight into the ocean and claimed it and all the land it touched for Spain. He named the discovery the Mar del Sur, the South Sea. Only 6 years later, Balboa was beheaded by a jealous rival.
Why don't we feel the earth moving?
Even though we constantly move at a high rate of speed, we don't feel it. Just as we don't feel the speed at which we're flying in an airplane or driving in a car. It's only when there is a sudden change in speed that we notice. And if the Earth made such a change, we would certainly feel it.
What is the continental divide?
The continental divide is simply the line that divides the flow of water in North America. Precipitation east of the divide flows towards the Atlantic Ocean, while precipitation west of the divide flows towards the Pacific Ocean. The divide follows the line of the highest ranges of the Rocky Mountains and is not a distinct mountain range.
Why are the Missouri-Mississippi rivers lumped together?
Actually, the Missouri River was incorrectly named. The Missouri River is actually the main feeder river of what is now known as the Mississippi River. Usually, the main feeder bears the same name as the rest of the river. Therefore, the full length of the Mississippi River, including the Missouri River, is known as the Missouri-Mississippi River.
Why did the United States invade Iraq?
The administration under President George W. Bush claimed that Iraq, led by Saddam Hussein, was a threat to the region because it believed that Iraq was developing weapons of mass destruction, including nuclear and biological weapons. This was later proven false by many investigators from both the US and United Nations. The weapons programs had stopped at the time of the First Gulf War in 1991. The Bush administration also claimed that Iraq was somehow responsible for the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And the president repeated these claims in the news media for many years. These allegations have also been proven false. There was never a connection between the perpetrators of the 9/11 attacks and the country of Iraq. How many people have been killed during the U.S.?
Which state has the highest divorce rate?
Nevada, with 6.4 divorces per 1,000 people, leads the nation. The District of Columbia has the lowest rate at 1.7 per 1,000. And is followed by Massachusetts with 2.2 divorces per 1,000 people.
When was the first flight achieved?
In 1783, the Montgolfier brothers flew the first hot air balloon across Paris, France.
What is the problem with a calendar based on the cycles of the moon?
The time between two new moons is 29½ days. After 12 lunar months, a calendar based on the cycles of the moon falls short of a solar year and thus the cycle of seasons by 11.25 days. To compensate, the Hebrew calendar, which is based on the moon cycle, has a regulated 19-year cycle in which an extra month is added every 2 or 3 years.
How does geography influence politics?
Geography is a key component in many political decisions and actions. The borders of countries, location of natural resources, access to ports, and the designation of voting districts are a few of the many geographical factors that affect politics.
How does a sextant help navigators?
In 1730, the sextant was invented independently by two men, John Hadley and Thomas Godfrey. Using a telescope, two mirrors, the horizon, and the sun, or another celestial body. The sextant measures the angle between the horizon and the celestial body. With this measurement, navigators could determine their latitude while at sea.
What are the horse latitudes?
These high-pressure regions, more formally known as subtropic highs, are warm and don't have much wind. Legend has it that the lack of wind sometimes caused sailors of the 16th and 17th centuries to throw their horses overboard in an effort to conserve water on board. That's how the region, centered around 30 degrees latitude, got its name.
What percentage of people live in the megacities of the world?
Only 4% of the inhabitants of Earth live in gigantic urban areas. The rest live in areas with populations of less than 10 million people. 25% of the world's inhabitants live in urban areas with fewer than 500,000 residents.
Why is Russia always 1 hour ahead?
In an effort to take advantage of the limited amount of light available in winter months. Each of Russia's time zones are 1 hour ahead of the standard time for those zones. Russia also follows daylight saving time and adds an additional hour during spring and summer months.
What type of rocks are formed from particles?
Sedimentary rocks are formed by the accumulation and squeezing together of layers of sediment. Particles of rock or remains of plant and animal life, at the bottom of rivers, lakes, and oceans or even on land. The continual accumulation of more and more layers of sediment places a great amount of pressure on the lowest layers of sediment and, over time, compresses them into rock.
What are the largest cities in the Middle East?
Cairo, Egypt, is by far the largest city in the Middle East, with over 14.45 million people. Istanbul, Turkey, is an urban area with almost 11.3 million residents. And Tehran, Iran, is home to 7.7 million people.
What fish, once thought to be extinct, suddenly appeared near Comoros?
In December 1938, a fisherman discovered a very strange-looking fish near the Comoros Islands. Scientists discovered that this lobe-finned fish was a coelacanth, thought to have been extinct for over 70 million years. This species continues to live in the waters off of the Comoros Islands. Located between Madagascar and continental Africa.
What language is spoken in the Maldives?
Dhivhi, an Indo-Aryan language, is spoken by the 300,000 inhabitants of the Maldives.
What were Marco Polo's contributions to exploration?
Though Marco Polo did not actually discover anything, his writings in Travels of Marco Polo served as Europe's introduction to the East, and spurred interest in exploration. Marco Polo, born in the mid-13th century in Venice, traveled with his father and uncle to China. During his stay, Polo served the Emperor Kublai Khan as an ambassador, as a governor, and in a host of other diplomatic positions. In his 30s he returned to Venice and fought against the city-state of Genoa and was eventually captured. While imprisoned in Genoa, he dictated the story of his travels to a fellow prisoner, creating the somewhat exaggerated memoir Travels of Marco Polo.
Where is the equator?
The equator is the line located equidistant between the North and South poles. The equator evenly divides the Earth into the northern and southern hemispheres and is 0 degrees latitude.
What is the world's longest subway system?
The world's first subway system is also the world's longest in operation. Since 1863, when it used steam-powered trains, the London Underground is now 244 miles. 393 kilometers long and uses electricity to power the trains.
Why is Coney Island called an island even though it's not?
Though now a peninsula of Long Island, Coney Island was actually an island at one time. The popular amusement park of the early 20th century is now attached to Long Island due to the silting up of Coney Island Creek, which once separated the two islands.
How did Brazil become a Portuguese colony?
Most of the present-day country of Brazil was east of the line drawn in the Treaty of Tordesillas. So it became Portuguese territory in 1506. Brazil's official language is Portuguese, making it the only Portuguese-speaking country in South America.
Is the Great Wall of China the only man-made object that can be seen from space?
No, it is not. Besides the Great Wall of China, there are many other man-made structures visible with the naked eye from space, such as urban areas and highways.
What is Bandar Seri Begawan?
The capital of Brunei Darussalam is Bandar Seri Begawan, or Bandar for short. It is said that during the Vietnam War the airport in Bandar frequently picked up the traces of US and Vietnamese fighter airplanes engaged in battle nearby.
Where is Tornado Alley?
Tornadoes occur more frequently in the central United States than anywhere else in the world. Tornado Alley is an area stretching from northwest Texas across Oklahoma, the tornado capital of the world, and through northeast Kansas. On average, over 200 tornadoes occur across Tornado Alley each year.
Which non-island nations have the fewest neighbors?
There are 10 non-island countries that share a land border with just one neighbor, Canada, neighboring USA. Monaco, France, San Marino, Italy, Vatican, Italy, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Portugal. Spain, Gambia, Senegal, Denmark, Germany, Lesotho, South Africa, and South Korea, North Korea.
Why is the growth rate declining?
A big reason why the rate of growth is slowly declining is because people are delaying marriage longer. Also, the wide availability of contraception is having a positive impact on decreasing the number of unwanted births.
What is a floodplain?
A floodplain is the area surrounding a river that when unmodified by human structures, would normally be flooded during a river flood. A floodplain can be a few feet or many miles wide. Depending on the river flow as well as the local terrain. Even though levees and flood walls can be built, with homes and businesses built just behind them, the floodplain does not vanish. If the structures break or are damaged, the water from a flood can fill a floodplain. Just as it did before humans occupied it.
Where was the first commercial air flight?
On January 1, 1914, the first scheduled commercial air flight took passengers from Tampa Bay, Florida, to St. Petersburg, Florida. The service, which lasted only a few weeks, took one person at a time over the 22-mile, 35-kilometer, route.
What is the effect of global warming and climate change on Earth?
By the year 2100, relative to 1990, world temperatures could rise from 2 to 11.5 degrees Fahrenheit. 1.1 to 6.4 degrees Celsius, and sea levels may rise 7.2 to 23.6 inches, 18 to 59 centimeters.
What is a central business district?
A central business district, CBD, of a city is located downtown. Often where the city began, and is the primary concentration of commercial buildings.
Which countries give the highest proportion of their GNP in the form of aid to other countries?
Norway, Sweden, Luxembourg, Denmark, and the Netherlands each give nearly 1% of the value of all of their goods and services to the cause of foreign aid.
What is the difference between relative and absolute location?
There are two different ways to describe where a place is located: relative location and absolute location. Relative location is a description of location using the relation of one place to another. For instance, using relative location to describe where the local video store is. You might say that it's on Main Street, just past the high school. Absolute location describes the location of a place by using grid coordinates. Most commonly latitude and longitude. For instance, the local video store would be described as being located at 23 degrees 23 minutes 57 seconds north and 118 degrees 55 minutes 2 seconds west.
What is the highest lake in North America?
Yellowstone Lake in Yellowstone National Park is the highest lake in North America. At 7,735 feet, 2,358 meters, above sea level.
How many people live on the Earth?
There are approximately 6.7 billion people on Earth. The planet's population is expected to grow to 8 billion by the year 2025 and 9.3 billion by 2050.
How many indigenous people live in the Arctic?
More than 4 million people live in the Arctic. They are spread across national boundaries in such places as Alaska, Canada, Greenland, Scandinavia, and Siberia.
How is rainfall measured?
Agencies like the National Weather Service use very accurate devices that measure rainfall to the nearest 1/100th of an inch. The devices, known as rain gauges or tipping bucket gauges, collect rainwater, usually at a point unaffected by local buildings or trees that may interfere with the rain.
How high is tree line?
Tree lines vary, depending on where they are in the world and how close they are to a geographic pole. Trees stop growing in mountain regions from around 2,600 feet, 800 meters. In places such as Sweden, to over 17,000 feet, 5,200 meters, in the Andes Mountains in Bolivia.
What are the deepest points in the oceans?
Lying deep below the Pacific Ocean, about 200 miles, 322 kilometers. South of the island of Guam, is the Marianas Trench, also known as the Mariana Trench, which is 1,554 miles, 2,550 kilometers, long and 44 miles, 71 kilometers, wide. The deepest point of the Marianas Trench is 36,198 feet, 11,033 meters. In the Atlantic Ocean, the Puerto Rico Trench is 28,374 feet, 8,648 meters, below the surface. In the Arctic Ocean, the Eurasia Basin is 17,881 feet, 5,450 meters, deep. The Java Trench in the Indian Ocean is 23,376 feet, 7,125 meters, deep. Another deep point of note in the Pacific Ocean is Monterey Canyon off the coast of Northern California. It is about 95 miles, 153 kilometers, long and 11,800 feet, 3,600 meters, deep. The cold waters generated in the trench create a perfect environment rich in foods that support a diverse range of wildlife. In comparison to all of these ocean canyons, the most famous land canyon, the Grand Canyon in Arizona, is 277 miles. 446 kilometers, long and 6,000 feet, 1,829 meters, deep. The world's ocean canyons are much more impressive, but most people will never see them.
What is the highest mountain on Earth?
The highest mountain lies on the Big Island of Hawaii, with a height from the bottom of the seafloor rising 33,474 feet, 10,203 meters, to the top of Mauna Kea, which is a volcano that rises 13,680 feet, 4,170 meters, above sea level.
What is air pollution?
Air pollution is caused by many sources. There are natural pollutants that have been around as long as the Earth, such as dust, smoke, volcanic ash, and pollens. Humans have added to air pollution with chemicals and particulates due to combustion and industrial activity.
Is it possible to drive across Russia?
It certainly is. Most of the urban areas of Russia have modern expressways. But in the vast expanse of the country east of Moscow, many of the roads are rough gravel or dirt and are only intermittently paved. Driving across Russia is therefore entirely dependent upon the season. During the winter, from November to May, the roads are frozen and can be driven upon. During the summer, many roads become quagmires and are unusable.
How long is China's Great Wall?
Located in northeastern China, the Great Wall stretches approximately 1,500 miles, 2,400 kilometers. It averages 25 feet, 7.6 meters, tall, is 15 to 30 feet, 4.6 to 9.2 meters. Wide at the base, and 10 to 15 feet, 3 to 4.6 meters, wide at the top. The wall was originally erected to keep northern invaders out of China. Though part of the wall was initially built in the 3rd century BCE. The wall was expanded over the course of succeeding centuries.
How much has the magnetic North Pole moved?
since it was documented in 1831 by James Ross to be slightly north of 70 degrees north latitude. It has moved to north of 80 degrees north latitude at an average rate of more than 24.9 miles, 40 kilometers, per year.
What is the best way to help after a disaster?
Disaster relief agencies such as the Red Cross are in vital need of money after a disaster to purchase necessary items for victims or provide financial support to them. Call your local chapter of the Red Cross to find out how to help. Donating food or clothing places additional burdens on the agencies in the immediate aftermath of a disaster, as personnel are not available to sort, clean, or distribute donated goods.
How many people are killed in the United States by lightning?
Approximately 73 people die each year after being struck by lightning. The highest death rates are in Florida. 425 killed between 1959 and 2003. The U.S. total from 1959 to 2003 is 3,696 deaths. This means that about 80 people die each year from lightning, and about 300 are injured annually.
What are recycled rocks?
Metamorphic rocks are recycled rocks. Metamorphic rocks are rocks that had a prior existence as sedimentary, igneous, or even another metamorphic rock. Underground heat and pressure metamorphose one type of rock into another, creating a metamorphic, or recycled rock.
What was the USSR?
The country called the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, commonly known as the Soviet Union, was created in 1924, 7 years after the Russian Revolution that overthrew the Tsarist monarchy. The Soviet Union consisted of Russia and its neighboring territories, such as Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and the Baltic states. By the end of 1991, communism had failed in the Soviet Union, and many of its internal republics became independent states.
How did trains help establish time zones?
Before trains, many cities and regions had their own local time, which was set based on the sun at their location. The great variation of local times made train schedules confusing. In November 1883, railroad companies across the United States and Canada began to use Standard time zones years before they came into general use across the United States.
What two cities make up Budapest?
Budapest, Hungary, is actually two cities, Buda and Pest. The two cities are separated by the Danube River. Buda is on the west bank and Pest is on the east bank. The province in which the twin cities are located is also called Budapest.
How many islands make up the Philippines?
The Philippines are composed of 7,100 islands. Only 1,000 of these are inhabited and 2,500 still remain unnamed. The islands are divided into three main groups: the Luzon region in the north, the Visayan region in the middle, and the Mindanao and Sulu region in the south.
How many desalination plants are there?
There are approximately 13,000 plants located throughout the world. Saudi Arabia alone accounts for 24% of the world output of fresh water from desalination.
What is the Organization of African Unity?
Founded in 1963, the Organization of African Unity helped strengthen and defend African unity across the continent. The 53 member countries sought to increase development and economic unity within and between member countries. It was disbanded in 2002 by South African President Thabo Mbeki when the new African Union was created with the same 53 member states. The African Union seeks to integrate political and socio-economic interests of the member states, speaking with a common voice on issues involving Africa. Its headquarters is in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
What major American city loses more people than any other?
Detroit, Michigan, loses more than 25,000 people each year. 3 times as many people as any other metropolitan area. It leads all other cities in the United States in negative population growth. By comparison, the Dallas/Fort Worth, Texas area continues to lead the United States in terms of population growth, adding more than 160,000 people each year.
What is the oldest European settlement in Eastern Asia?
In 1557, the Portuguese established the trading colony of Macau on mainland China at the mouth of the Shi, Pearl, River. Macau was a territory of Portugal from 1849 until 1999, when it was returned to China.
Where is Catalonia?
Catalonia is an autonomous region in northeastern Spain. Because Catalonia is home to more than 6 million Spanish Catalans, who have their own language and culture. Many in the region would like the territory to become an independent nation. Spain does not want Catalonia to secede, as Catalonia is responsible for a sizable portion of Spanish economic production. Catalonia's capital is Barcelona, the host city of the 1992 Summer Olympics.
What is the world's largest lake?
The Caspian Sea, which is really a lake, is the largest lake in the world. It is surrounded by Russia, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Iran, and Azerbaijan, and is over 143,200 square miles, 370,888 square kilometers, in area. The second largest lake, Lake Superior in North America, is a mere 31,700 square miles, 82,103 square kilometers.
Why is the Mediterranean Sea so salty?
Due to the high temperatures in the Mediterranean region. Evaporation of the Mediterranean Sea occurs more rapidly than in other bodies of water, therefore more salt is left behind. The warm, dense, salty water in the Mediterranean is replaced by less salty and dense Atlantic water in the Strait of Gibraltar. Water that flows into the Mediterranean from the Atlantic Ocean usually remains in the sea for anywhere from 80 to 100 years before returning to the Atlantic Ocean.
What is the jet stream?
The jet stream is a band of swiftly moving air located high in the atmosphere. The jet stream meanders across the troposphere and stratosphere, up to 30 miles 48 kilometers high, and affects the movement of storms and air masses closer to the ground.
Where is the outback?
The outback is the general term used to describe the remote interior of Australia. Most of Australia's population is concentrated on the coast. Since the interior is extremely dry and barren,
What is the center of North America?
the geographic center of North America, including Canada, the United States, and Mexico. Is located 6 miles, 10 kilometers, west of Balta, North Dakota, at 48 degrees 10 minutes north, 100 degrees 10 minutes west.
Do rivers always flow from north to south?
No, they do not. Rivers always flow from higher ground to lower ground. Though we are familiar with rivers like the Mississippi River in the United States, which flows from north to south, rivers always flow the way gravity takes them. There are many major rivers in Europe, Asia, and North America that flow from south to north, such as the Ob in Russia and the Mackenzie in Canada.
Where can I buy maps?
There are many places you can buy maps. Most large bookstores offer an extensive collection of local and foreign travel maps, wall maps, and atlases. Also, many cities have specialty travel and map stores that offer a larger and more varied collection of maps, as well as maps of more exotic locales. Maps are also available at many websites on the internet. Just put in the name of the place, region, city, or country that you wish to find, and you will discover both maps that are either free or available for purchase. Look for the most up-to-date maps when selecting a map from more than one available vendor.
How much junk is there in space?
In addition to operational satellites, there are approximately 8,800 pieces of space junk surrounding the Earth, from tiny screws to booster rockets. There are plans for the future to build a radar system that would track every piece of space junk so that space vehicles and satellites can avoid irreparable damage.
Why are there so many starving people in Ethiopia?
Droughts in the 1970s and 1980s, which were especially severe from 1984 to 1986, destroyed Ethiopian agriculture. Though relief food was shipped to Ethiopia, internal political corruption kept the food from reaching the starving victims. During the 1980s, approximately 1 million people died of starvation in Ethiopia.
What do B, C, and CE stand for?
To secularize the calendar, the terms B, CE and CE have come into use to replace BC and AD respectively. BCE means before Common Era and CE stands for Common Era.
What are the 5 most populous U.S. states?
The 5 most populous states are California, 33.8 million, Texas, 20.8 million, New York, 18.9 million, Florida, 15.9 million, and Illinois, 12.4 million.
What is the Space Guard Survey?
The Space Guard Survey is an initiative by NASA to catalog all near Earth objects that are larger than 0.6 miles, 1 kilometer, in diameter. The survey assesses their potential intersection with Earth's orbital path.
Which countries colonized Africa?
Seven European countries colonized Africa: Belgium, France, Italy, Germany, Portugal, Spain, and the United Kingdom.
What was the Ottoman Empire?
The Ottoman Empire began as a tiny state in the 14th century. It was centered in the city of Bursa in what is now northeast Turkey. And it rapidly expanded through the conquest of neighboring states. Its greatest expansion was in the 16th century, when it included southeastern Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa.
What is the Atacama Desert?
One of the world's driest deserts, the Atacama is located in northern Chile. It is completely barren of plant life. The town of Calama, which is located in the Atacama, has never received rain. The Atacama is a source for nitrates and borax.
How, why, and how much does magnetic north move?
Scientists aren't sure why the Earth's magnetic pole moves, only that it does. The amount of movement varies, but it's never more than a few miles each year.
Who was Lech Walesa?
In 1970, Lech Walesa was one of the leaders of a shipyard workers' strike in Gdansk, Poland. Later, he organized workers in non-communist labor unions, arguing for improved conditions for workers. In 1980, he led the Gdansk shipyard strike, which ended with the government agreeing with his provisions on behalf of workers, including the right to strike and the right to form independent unions. The Catholic Church, which is very influential in Poland, supported his activities, including his formation of the Solidarity movement. Wałęsa was later elected President of Poland and served in office from 1990 to 1995.
What were some of the most destructive tornadoes in U.S. history?
Some of the worst tornadoes in U.S. history include, the Tri-State Tornado, which struck Missouri, Indiana, and Illinois in 1925, killing 695 people and injuring 2,027, the 1,840 Natchez tornado struck Mississippi, killing 317 people and causing injuries to another 109, and the St. Louis/East St. Louis tornado of 1,896 killed 296 people and injured 1,000.
Where is the world's largest mountain?
Hawaii's Mauna Kea is the world's largest mountain. It begins on the seafloor and rises 33,480 feet, 10,205 meters. Mt. Everest only rises 29,000 feet, 8,839 meters. Mauna Kea's peak reaches 13,796 feet, 4,205 meters, above sea level.
How many official languages are there in South Africa?
The country has 11 official languages: Afrikaans, English, Ndeb, Pedi, Soto, Swazi, Tsonga, Tswana, Venda, Xhosa, and Zulu.
Where are Egypt's pyramids?
The most famous group of pyramids in Egypt is located near the city of Giza, which is just outside of Cairo. This group includes the Great Pyramid, which is known as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The pyramids in Egypt served as tombs for pharaohs and were built from the 27th to the 10th century BCE. Other pyramids are located along the Nile River in southern Egypt and the northern Sudan. Approximately 70 pyramids remain in the region.
Why is there often a cross next to the east direction on maps?
On old maps, a cross often sits next to the east direction on a compass rose. This cross represents the direction to paradise and the Holy Land.
What do AM and PM mean?
The distinctions A M and PM are abbreviations for ante-meridiem and post-meridiem, which mean before midday and after midday, respectively.
Where are the highlands?
The island of Great Britain is divided into highlands and lowlands along the Tees-Exe line, which runs between Plymouth in the south and Middlesbrough on the east coast. To the southeast of this line lie the flat plains of England, while to the northwest lie the Scottish Highlands.
How many airports are there in the United States?
There are approximately 19,379 airports in the United States, including 5,233 that are designated for public use.
How many people lived on the islands of Seychelles before 1770?
None. The country, which is composed of 115 islands northeast of Madagascar, was first inhabited by the colonizing French in the 1770s. The British later gained control of the area and brought Africans to the islands. The islands gained independence in 1976.
Is the Black Sea really black?
No, it is not. This sea, located to the north of Turkey, is quite deep and has darker looking water than most water bodies, but receives its name from the inhospitableness of the waters for sailing.
Which African country is the world's leading producer of cocoa beans?
Côte d'Ivoire, also known as the Ivory Coast. Named for the large amount of ivory collected from elephant herds that once roamed the country. Produces 37.4% of the world's cocoa beans, the beans used to make chocolate. It produces more than 1.3 million tons each year. Ghana produces another 20% of the world's total. And both Cameroon and Nigeria contribute 10% to the total production of cocoa in the world. This means that nearly 70% of the world's cocoa beans are grown in Africa.
What are the Arctic and Antarctic circles?
The circles are imaginary lines that surround the North and South poles at 66.5 degrees latitude. The Arctic Circle is a line of latitude at 66.5 degrees north of the equator, and the Antarctic Circle is a line of latitude at 66.5 degrees south. Areas north of the Arctic Circle are dark for 24 hours near December 21st and areas south of the Antarctic Circle are dark for 24 hours near June 21st. Almost all of the continent of Antarctica is located to the south of the Antarctic Circle.
How many automobiles are there in the United States?
There are approximately 151 million automobiles in use in the United States. About one car for every two people.
What is the Forbidden City?
The Forbidden City, located in the center of Beijing, China, was the home of the emperor and the entire imperial court for close to 500 years. Completed in 1420, the Forbidden City, also known as the Purple Forbidden City or Gugong, was the home of 24 emperors from the Ming and Qing dynasties. For centuries, visitors were not allowed into this imperial city. In 1950, several decades after the last emperor was expelled, the city was made a museum and opened to the public.
How wide is a degree of longitude?
Though there are only a couple dozen lines of longitude shown on most globes and world maps, the Earth is actually divided into 360 lines of longitude. The distance between each line of longitude is called a degree. Because the lines of longitude are widest at the equator and converge at the poles, the width of a degree varies from 69 miles, 111 kilometers, wide to 0, respectively.
Which volcano poses the most risk to people in Europe?
Mt. Vesuvius, on the western coast of Italy, lies very near a city of more than 1 million people, Naples. The volcano is still active, and geologists predict there is a very good chance it will erupt again in the future, potentially wiping out Naples and the surrounding area.
When did agriculture begin?
Agriculture began about 10 to 12,000 years ago in a time period known as the First Agricultural Revolution. It was at this time that humans began to domesticate plants and animals for food. Before the Agricultural Revolution, people relied on hunting wild animals and gathering wild plants for nutrition. This revolution took place almost simultaneously in different areas of human settlement.
What is permafrost?
Soil that is permanently, or for a good part of the year, frozen is known as permafrost. Permafrost occurs in higher latitudinal regions, which have cold climates.
Why do people travel to Mecca?
The Holy Book of Islam, the Quran, requires that all Muslims make a journey, known as a pilgrimage, to the city of Mecca at some time in their lives. Mecca, located in Saudi Arabia, is the holiest city of Islam, as it was the birthplace of Muhammad, the founder of Islam in the 6th century, and contains many important religious sites. Non-Muslims are forbidden to enter Mecca.
What was manifest destiny?
First used by John Lewis O'Sullivan in an 1845 editorial, manifest destiny was the phrase used to describe the assumption that American expansion to the Pacific Ocean was inevitable and ordained by God. The phrase was used to defend the annexations of Texas, California, Alaska, and even Pacific and Caribbean islands.
What is the difference between a bay and a gulf?
Both are bodies of water partially surrounded by land, and a bay is a smaller version of a gulf. Famous bays include the San Francisco Bay, California, the Bay of Pigs, Cuba, Chesapeake Bay, Maryland/Virginia area, Hudson Bay, Canada, the Bay of Bengal, a large bay near India and Southeast Asia, and the Bay of Biscay, France. Famous gulfs include the Gulf of Mexico, southern United States, the Persian Gulf, between Saudi Arabia and Iran, and the Gulf of Aden, between the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea.
Why are we losing groundwater?
Water is pumped from aquifers around the world for irrigation, industrial, and household needs. Aquifers do not refill as rapidly as water is being pumped out. So in many areas there is a danger that some aquifers may disappear altogether.
Can you ski in New Zealand?
New Zealand's South Island is famous for having some of the best skiing in the Southern Hemisphere. The centre of New Zealand skiing is Queenstown, which is a few hours by plane from capital city, Auckland. Ski season is July through September, when winter hits the countries of the southern latitudes.
Why is Cyprus divided?
The island of Cyprus, part of the European Union, is located in the eastern Mediterranean Sea. It became independent from the United Kingdom in 1960. In 1974, a coup occurred that overthrew the president. Turkey invaded the island and succeeded in taking control of its northern half. This became the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, which is not internationally recognized as an independent country. Southern Cyprus remained an independent country, the Republic of Cyprus. Currently, a UN peacekeeping force of 938 soldiers monitors the ceasefire line between the two areas.
What city is named for a game show?
The popular radio game show Truth or Consequences offered to host its 10th anniversary show in a city that would change its name to the show's title. In 1950, Hot Springs, New Mexico changed its name, and the 10th anniversary show was broadcast from Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. The city still holds the name today.
Are there tornadoes in Europe?
While 90% of all tornadoes occur in the United States, there are tornadoes in Europe, especially in western France. Other tornado regions of the world include eastern and western Australia, southern Brazil, Bangladesh, South Africa, and Japan.
How long is Chile?
Chile stretches approximately 2,700 miles, 4,344 kilometers, along the western coast of South America. At its widest it is only 100 miles, 161 kilometers, across. Chile is a classic example of an elongated country, which makes governing difficult.
How many visitors come to the United States every year?
Approximately 51.1 million people visited the United States from abroad. Foreign travel in the United States grows at approximately 4% per year. And sales related to travel in the United States, which is counted as exports, is larger than purchases of American agricultural products and cars combined. Tourists and other visitors contribute $107 billion per year to the U.S. economy.